My favorite thing about Classroom of the Elite is hands down our main man Aino, just how he goes about manipulating the chessboard, because he is without a doubt the player of this chess match, and the way he goes about changing people up into being very important for his overall plan. You can look at, for the most part, most episodes that we've seen, his biggest piece that was useful to him is without a doubt Horikita. But the issue with someone like her is she doesn't really play by teamwork rules. We really get a sense of that if it wasn't really clear up until this point, which it should be, but the episode at the end with the whole three-legged race, the way she was in the classroom when they were debating how to go about basically navigating the optional test with the physical matches and everything like that. She's not a team player. She very much thinks her way is the right way because she is very talented, so lesser people, whether physically lesser or mentally lesser than her, should just fall in line because she knows what's best. Where you have someone like Aino who very much knows how to blend into the crowd. He wants to be appeared as average. He's not weak, he's not skilled, he's average, so that he can manipulate everyone in that room. The issue with someone like her is that she can't unite the class, whereas someone like Kei, who very much is at the top of Class D, can do that. So the interesting way that he's using Kei, it almost feels like now he has a king and a queen on a chessboard. And doing so, there's a lot more potential. I feel like up until this point, he's almost been limited because the personality that he had to work with, who's very useful, there's so many things that she's not useful for. But now he has these two people that really allow him to take hold of this entire situation. And the idea of going from Class D to Class A and bringing the whole class with him, it no longer really feels impossible. Because even though you believe he could do it, there's always these lingering thoughts like, there's no way everything's gonna go according to plan, right? But to see how Kei is being used, which is amazing because you knew she was going to be useful. You knew that she would be the main reason that he could probably unite the class better. But to see it in action, I mean, that entire classroom scene when they're discussing track and field and everything like that. What Horikita was saying wasn't anything that is naturally horrible or it didn't make sense, but it's not the exact way you probably would want to go about it. Where you had someone like Kei pop up, which even before the confirmation that he sent her an email, the dude was on his phone the entire time they were talking, so it was pretty clear that whatever action that she did in that moment was either because he sent her a message or was planned prior. That's just kind of, at this point, common sense when it comes to Aino, because you know everything's gonna go according to plan at least 99.9% of the time. And to see how the class unites with her, because she's very much someone who's saying we need to take everyone's opinion into consideration, the whole idea no one gets left behind. It's just so interesting to see how this man, at face value, always appears to be the most neutral, don't give a shit, average person. But we know every episode, the more we watch of him, this dude is literally the player. He is making sure everything goes according to plan. And the idea that one, they're talking about at the beginning of the episode, kind of like how the traders were, or the VIPs were revealed, right, in terms of the different planets, in terms of how it relates. And the fact of the matter is, he very much has his eyes painted on the person who very much seems very bubbly, very positive, who was a VIP trader. And the fact of the matter is, the entire classroom scene was specifically to get the opinion of the man kind of leading the debate. So I'm interested to see what they're going to pull, because one of my favorite parts of this episode, it's very small, it's not a big moment, all things considered, but it's when he asks, what is the average strength of the kind of muscle measuring tool there, where you just have to squeeze it and it gives you a number. And of course, he's asking someone who's ridiculously strong, so his average, or what he appears to think average is, very much is not going to be what the actual average is. Because when he initially said 60, I was like, this seems oddly high. Because, I thought it was 55 or 50 in that area. I wasn't even thinking 45 or in that area. But the whole idea that he perfectly hit 60, it's just slightly above. And they're like, oh shit, you're actually really strong. He's like, no, it's all average. He's like, no, see, everyone's getting 45. I love how he's not super upset by that, because it's not like he did 100 or something, right? It's not like he's Superman, but it's enough to be like, shit, man, you got some muscles hidden, which they're gonna be appreciative of if it comes up in this festival. But the whole idea that he's kind of like, oh, I'll remember that for next time. I just love how, even in the face of things not going exactly his way, he just makes it a lesson. He makes it something that he learns from. And I just love seeing how this entire episode, for him not talking all that much, in fact, most characters talked more than him. But the entire time this episode was going on, you knew damn well this was his chessboard, and things were all going according to plan. And that's what I love about Aino, is that he'll do whatever it takes to win. I mean, we can look at the previous episode, which I still argue is one of, if not the best episodes of last week. And to see how an episode like this, which is all setup, which is all preparation, has that same level of excitement, and just the fact that he doesn't show too much emotion. He doesn't convey too much emotion in his voice, but you always know everything is sinister. Everything has a plan going on. And to see now just how skillful his arsenal now is with these two girls, who very much have two very different uses but are still equally important in their own way, it'll be very interesting, because the whole idea of like someone like Horikita, who just is like, you know, the slower person, should try to match up, and pretty much she just leaves him behind, and then my boy comes in and makes her almost trip on her face. It's interesting how he'll show signs of like greatness where he needs to really get a point across to certain people, but he'll never go full blown like the entire class is going to say, wait a minute, is he the best, or is he way smarter or way more physically capable than we're giving credit? But there's always these hints that the class is like, wait a minute, what's going on here, before transitioning back to whatever they're talking about, because he's not going to let it last long enough to really oust himself as a genius. I think really the only people who like are fully convinced that this man is way better than he's letting on is without a doubt Horikita and Kei, but they don't have like full on like, okay, they know exactly how crazy he is. They just very much have seen some shit that paint him as a, oh shit. But I think the teacher is probably the one who knows the most, just given the fact of how out of the box his thinking is, and those glares in the classroom kind of say it all. Now, I didn't rewatch season 1 in preparation of season 2. There was just too much shit I had to watch or rewatch in preparation for this anime season. So I do appreciate the number of flashbacks every episode gives to remind us of crucial moments. I'm glad that they're not just dropping all the flashbacks at the beginning of the first episode, but rather painting them and kind of like placing them in a very careful way that it does remind the viewers well enough that, oh shit, yeah, she's looking for so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. But also the fact of the matter is, I find that episodes like these that are primarily driven by their setup and their preparation for future story points, it does a great job at slowing things down and letting the viewer digest all the information, because this show, like literally if you were to pause and read how the points are being distributed or the rules or what all is going to happen, it feels like doing homework sometimes. So for me, I'm glad that this anime, it has the option of, if you want to read all the extra stuff, you can do so, and you can try to memorize it if you want. The anime does a great job at basically telling you the main things you need to know, and then as they happen, I feel like by the time it's over anyway, you understand what has occurred. It's not to say that in previous episodes you might say, well, how the hell did they actually win? But you can look at this episode, and it does clarify like how VIPs were spotted and things like that, even if the viewers themselves couldn't figure it out at the exact same moment the characters did. The show's really good at showing us a lot of information, and you have multiple ways to consume it, whether pausing and reading the big lists or really taking the time to try to carefully analyze everything, or it can be in a more streamlined approach with the way characters are explaining things. And I find like Classroom of the Elite does it a lot better than a lot of shows with that info dump, because it's entertaining and it also has that extra info if you want to consume it, which a lot of shows don't give, which I honestly see a lot of like light novel readers criticize because you don't get the extra information. But I found like a show like this, it does go out of its way to give that extra, but it's there if you want it, not that you have to consume it, like with the giant list that will appear on screen. So if you pause it, you can consume it. But I love Classroom of the Elite. It's definitely been great to have a month of it return to us, and I'm so excited to see more. But thoughts down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.